Game 1 was fine. The rest of it was...
Weirdly on his Elise, he showed a lot less gang pressure than the Rek'Sai. But as a whole, Ambition is actually number 3 in the entire league for first blood percentage, so he's been there picking up those early kills.
Okay. Well, you can see, obviously, Core JJ playing just one game, so that graph's going to be pretty skewed with his 0.7 KDA coming into this one, but the ban's really just flying off the handle right now. Zilean, of course, taken away from Fly, staple champion for him. Fiora away from Someday, because we saw that monstrous performance by him. Rise, of course, Azir, Nidalee, and Vladimir coming out from KT, so much more standard on their side, and a lot of respect being shown from Samsung on the blue side.
Yeah, pocket bans, really. Of course, KT does draw a lot of those Zilean bans. As you can see, Zilean is the second most banned champion against KT because it is one of Fly's best picks. And as you say, Samsung has played more Fiora than any other team this season, yet they are the ones who say, we're going to ban this out, and we're going to go ahead and take the Karma first.
Okay, so safe pick. Could be that mid lane or the support, so nice flex there for the side of Samsung. KT, though, this opens up a lot of possibilities for them if they want to go for something like that early draft Aurelia, or if they just want to grab their bot lane and then just kind of, you know, keep their team composition a little bit muted at the moment.
And Someday is once again spelling out KT with champions, as he does.
His favorite thing to do.
It is his favorite thing to do. So, I'm curious whether they want to take an early Aurelia here. Usually KT on red side will last pick for Someday, and they're going to grab the Rek'Sai early, which I think is smart, but they're just going to take the Aurelia, interestingly enough.
Confident?
Well,
right there.
Samsung has been, at least in their last best of 3, picking the Aurelia blind early and often. So they've shown that that is the preferential pick for Cuvée. And with the Fiora banned, Detrundle obviously still available here. Less attractive generally as a pick when we talk about going into Fiora, just because you're not going to be able to steal those stats as much in a 1v1 with a champion that's going to be building primarily damage. But maybe the only option left.
Well, we have seen a good amount of Shen, especially yesterday. ADD really bringing that champion out into the forefront of play against Jin Air, and kind of just crushed Trace in that top lane. He had no chance, especially when he drafted Echo in Game 2. It was very bizarre. But Elise and Sivir will be the 2 picks coming in for Samsung.
Yeah, not really a surprise. Ambition again. Last week did struggle in the early game on Elise in Game 2. Now, whether that was a factor of having a different support, it was the Core JJ game, or whether he was just a little bit bamboozled by his own pathing and inability to get his Aurelia rolling. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, Arrow could be going back to the Jhin, a champion that he has played quite a bit so far this season.
Yeah, last time we saw his Jhin, if I remember correctly, it was actually very good. But now hovering this Kalista, we saw Ruler play this again with that Zyra support. It didn't go so well. Looking for it this time, maybe with the Nami. Clock's ticking down. Looks like they're going to lock this.
Well, typically when we've seen... Nope, it's going to be the Jhin.
All right.
Last second. So they will take the...
I like that better.
Nami for Hachani, and then the Jhin here for Arrow. And Arrow has been playing a lot of Jhin, as I said. 3 games on it so far this season, tied with Ezreal and Lucian for his most played AD carries. And surprisingly, as a stat people might not know, Arrow is actually #1 in kills in the entire league at 65. So it's going to be a Renekton.
That got locked in. All right, bringing out Renekton against Someday.
I don't think I would do that.
That's some balls right there, Cuvée. I don't know about this one.
Yeah, back when, several years ago, against Someday used to be pretty much a Renekton one-trick when he first joined KT. So that is going to be a matchup that Someday is going to know very, very well. Also, Renekton just doesn't really have much presence in the late game, and Aurelion Sol for Fly, so he's going to be returning to that champion. He did play it once this season already.
All right, so already shaking up the draft here. I like it. Aurelion Sol for Fly. And then we get this top lane matchup of Aurelia versus the Renekton.
Yeah, I like the Aurelion Sol with the Jhin and the Aurelia. Wow, this is going to be hard.
Aurelion Sol and Aurelia is going to really suck.
It's going to suck. And we're just going to fly around in our box.
Just fly through the empty OGN studio.
That's right. Well, it does provide a little bit more meatiness and some more CC and big front line. So I think Aurelion Sol, when you've got a less mobile AD carry like Jhin, And someday with Aurelia going to be diving the back line, does provide a lot of protection for the Jhin and should allow Arrow to maneuver pretty freely.
Yep.
I mean, the engage is really not very good. It looks good when we say, okay, there's a Karma and a Sivir for the likes of KT, but they're very reliant on CoreJJ in his second professional game as support, hitting those Tempered Fates, because otherwise it's just a single target stun with Elise, single target stun with Renekton, and they're very kiteable in spite of their speed.
Well, it's going to be interesting play here for KT Rolster. Aurelion Sol, they do have a good amount of AoE CC, what with the Nami ultimate, the bubbles, plus Aurelion Sol with his ultimate. So there's a decent amount of work that they can have done there. It's just going to come down to whether or not they can chain everything properly and have it all jive up. But this top lane plus jungler matchup is going to be the big one to watch out. See if Cube can get ahead, or if someday it's just going to get taken out. We'll find out what happens when we get into game one. Samsung versus KT Rolster. And it's going to be a Cloud Drake. Somehow it's almost always a Cloud Drake when I'm casting with you, Monty.
That's right. I just bring the clouds in, make it rain. That's what I do.
Make it, yeah, I saw your Renegades promotion video.
Just making it rain over here. Monte Cristo.
All right, well, Keystone, Masteries, pretty much exactly what we would expect from either side. Renekton will be going very aggressive with the fervor of battle. Thought maybe he would go for Grasp, or maybe even the Strength of Ages, but
I think
he
if you're
wants
going
to swing real fast.
I think if you're going to play Renekton, you kind of just have to go all in on the aggression right now, because he's just so not relevant as a tank in the late game. The real question is how are we going to see him built? He should be able to trade pretty well with Aurelia in this lane, just because of the slice and dice, being able to get in and out very quickly and get the guaranteed stun versus the conditional stun on the Equilibrium Strike. So we'll see how it goes, but all right. I'm so happy we're going to get a lane swap.
All right, here we go with CoreJJ and Ruler. Going to try to kick things off with an invasion, but the ward spots them, so score ends someday. We'll just back off to these wolves, and CoreJJ is going to stick around. Meanwhile, Hachani's doing some work, and he's going to shove them to the complete opposite side of the jungle. Looks like the same is happening on the side of KT.
Yeah, not even actually going for any camps on the weak side this time, so pretty unusual start, but both teams making the same decision.
Yeah, no one going to be getting much of an advantage as far as the clear goes. So we could just see the blue buffs swapped between either side.
Fly actually, because he does have the, I suppose, pseudo-global mobility, actually going with a heal in this matchup, so heals for the likes of KT. Now, the problem for Samsung that I foresee in this game with this composition is, sure, they're going to be really fast when they run at you, but I think the principal problem that we're looking at right now is that they don't really have anybody to flank, and any kind of straight aggression is countered fairly easily by Tidal Wave.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure if they're ever really going to be able to get on top of Arrow, barring Cube with some TP home guard boot shenanigans, but it's not very reliable, and I just think the threat onto Arrow is very low, barring that or some really lucky ricochet crits.
See how Arrow is going to fare with this Jhin. A very good game with that this time, but as mentioned, a lot of AoE CC, so could just keep people locked up long enough for Arrow to get all of those current call shots off. For now, though, will just be the blue buffs being traded to both junglers, the opposite side, and the turret's going down.
And when I was talking about the lane swaps for both of these teams, when the first tower goes down, that's where these teams really do start doing some weird stuff. So this is all pretty standard. We don't usually see KT or Samsung doing anything too strange prior to the first tower going down. It's after that point when we may see Samsung try and match lanes again and get the 2v2 and the 1v1 back. And we may see KT do something weird like stick around for a really long time. Try and surprise their opponents. It has had mixed success. Worked well against Ever. Was a total train wreck disaster against the Rocks Tigers.
Well, we'll see if they want to feel confident enough to go for any shenanigans. Right now, looks like the Aurelia and the Renekton both will be sticking around, but Core JJ on the roam up. This is going to send Someday back.
So dual lane's just going to reverse. Samsung doesn't have to be too worried about losing a Cloud Drake here. And indeed, if this Renekton is going to be building for quite a bit of damage, getting the Rift Herald buff might in fact be preferable to the Cloud Drake.
Yeah.
If they want to shut down this Aurelia.
Would help him a lot. See the first couple items coming through Someday, just going to be going for that Phage first. And it's going to be the Boots Longsword for Cuvée, so we can only really expect that he might be replicating, or going for the Tiamat, actually, rather.
So looks like at least that'll be the start. Question is, how aggressive does he want to go? Is it going to be something like a Black Cleaver? This could be very exciting. Of course, Renekton can stack that up pretty quickly.
Yeah, gets the 3 swings on the Enraged W.
Yeah, the Ruthless Predator can get 3 stacks very fast, and it's just a targeted CC, so there's not really any stopping you from taking that.
Yep. Pretty
nice. Black Cleaver champion, but of course that would make him of limited use in team fights, and with Jin's range, just, I don't know, Kilios, it just seems really unlikely that Cuvé's ever really going to be able to stop Arrow. I don't think anybody on Samsung can really stop Arrow.
Well, right now, Samsung is at least getting a bit more damage in on these towers. Jin, of course, is going to be slow to the take because of those 4 bullets that he has. Does get that extra bit of damage in on the 4th bullet, but Cuvée will take down that turret. It's going to be a little bit longer before KT can get this.
And he's going to drag the minion wave back, try and focus them all on one, and then prune the wave for a little bit more CS right here. Yeah. KT still very slowly going through this turret.
Yep, just means that not going to be able to go for any sort of dragon now, so Samsung will be able to respond in this bot lane and maybe fight over that cloud if it comes down to it, if they really want to do that.
I don't think they do, Achilles. And now I'm sad because we didn't get to see any weird lane swaps.
Yep.
Disappointed.
Should have just had a Mountain Drake.
Disappointed is what I am after all of this.
Well, we might finally get the 1v1 at the top. Nope, never mind. It's just Jin and Nami.
Well, I actually like the way that KT is playing this because, sure, Aurelia is going to need a lot of gold, but delaying the Renekton makes him so that he is pretty useless in the late game. And the Aurelia going to be much more of a threat, particularly to short-range 80 carry like Sivir.
Yeah, we've seen how much work that can do. Especially on champions like Ashe. Sivir at least has the reprieve of the spell shield, but see the big shove coming in on the tier 2 in this bot side. Wave in the top, nowhere near for KT.
Yep, that is the problem KT has, is they don't have wave clear, really, with this composition. So as much as there is to like about it, Aurelia is not going to be able to Blade Surge her way to success right there, and Jin going to be really slow at pushing in these waves, so they're just going to lose another turret. Great call there from Samsung.
Yeah, very nice. Give themselves an early lead, 1.2 thousand. And now that will leave Someday to be able to soak that wave, keep it towards the base, so he can remain safe to farm, but not being able to answer a turret is a pretty big deficit there for KT Rolster. Gonna need to try to find advantages elsewhere, and we are at a pause.
We are, and sometimes having these early tier 2s go down in the lane swap is problematic, but sometimes it can be actually beneficial, because when the 2 towers go down, it does make a guaranteed minion wave push. So if you are going to really start to snowball your top laner, your AD carry, you can make a lot out of those freezes as long as you don't mind giving up some of the camps in your jungle. But it does force action on the part of the enemy team in order to break those freezes or punish you in some way for doing it. So if the rest of your team plays safe, you can actually get certain advantages out of that. It does make it so there is something you can get, and does require counterplay from the enemy team. So it's not exactly a disaster that it was a trade there. Well, it wasn't a trade, it was just a tier 2 taken for nothing.
Yeah. Well, again, not that much of a gold deficit there. I mean, it's decent for this early on in the game, but Samsung netting that objective is going to be the biggest thing. Gives them more mobility through that lower side of the jungle, but tier 1 and mid definitely going to be the thing that they look to break.
Yeah, Fly also falling pretty far behind, about 13 CS in the mid lane right now. Going for the Boots of Swiftness first. There is the slow on the second proc of the Mantra Q, so may be able to get out of some of this early crowd control and playing very safely in that lane. There is danger, obviously. The cocoon into the tether from Karma can set up some nice chain CC, and looks like he's going to be building into a Rod of Ages after that. So.
Yeah, pretty standard. But once the Swifty, so he can just float over the map and get to those
exactly.
other lanes as quickly as he possibly can. Whether or not he's going to find much of an opportunity to do that early is the big question, I suppose. Yeah, Samsung's in a pretty decent spot across the map right now.
Yeah, they are, and it's about really punishing KT for their lack of wave clear right now. And KT, they're just going to have to be constantly pushing with this Aurelia and this Jhin. Otherwise, they're going to have some pretty severe problems as Samsung just quickly clears out the side lanes. You do have the Q from Renekton also, which is going to be pretty fast, especially as you get some more damage and a Tiamat.
Yeah.
And the pressure's going to be pretty real for KT, and they've got to figure out really how they're going to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, not sure what's happened.
No, we don't know. I have no clue.
Something broke down. Trying to get it fixed back up. I mean, we had one yesterday, and we thought maybe it was like Blanc settings or something like that. So, these things happen from time to time, I suppose. But it's all good.
It is. Arrow actually went for cooldown boots, and now he's building.
Did he?
Looks like he's going to be building into a Yomu's, so that's exciting.
Okay, interesting build. I do like the Yomu's build for.
I do really like that
for the Jhin. It's really good. I mean, just even the increased mobility on paper, so he can just kite around better is strong. But the Ionian boots, that's a bit of a new one.
I just like it because it allows you to pack a little bit more punch with your curtain call early. And when you consider how important Drakes are in the early game right now, the ability to poke out your opponent very hard around that Drake is extremely valuable.
Drakes that aren't Cloud.
Drakes that aren't Cloud, yeah.
In this game, I have to correct that one.
In this game, it may not matter a whole lot. We'll see how long Cloud Drake manages to live.
We had one
29
minutes before the Drake was taken.
Nobody wanted it.
No, well, why would you? It's like, I don't know.
I actually think Rift Herald's much more valuable considering the Renekton Aurelia matchup in the top lane.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
Do you think that the Cloud Drake feels bad because nobody wants to kill her? Or do you think that it's okay because it's like, well, I get to live longer?
I think it's the next evolution in Drakes, right? Because technically it is actually survival of the fittest by being less attractive to kill. It's like the problem with the Bison in the American West, right? There's so many great things that came out of bison, good meat. I grew up in Colorado, so I've had a lot of bison burgers and bison steaks.
The fur and leather.
The fur and leather, so valuable. And they were hunted nearly to extinction despite being in herds of 10,000 animals on the Great Plains of North America. So really, by evolving into a less attractive thing to kill, the Cloud Drake is probably going to be all the Drakes. Like next season, it's going to be worse and worse Drakes over time. Just because they have longer to breed and pass on their genes.
That's true.
That's my dragon breeding theory.
Okay, I see. So Cloud Drake is actually the most superior one.
It is.
Out of all of them.
For living, yes.
Okay. It's smart.
It's not smart. It just got lucky with its genes.
Okay. It's good. Very well noted. Well, thanks, Mom and Dad.
So that's my theory on how Cloud Drakes will just eventually take over everything. Soon enough, the move speed buff will get lower and lower and lower, and there will be only Cloud Drakes in the world because no one wanted to kill them.
You've lived in a lot of places now that I think about this. Like, you said, like, oh, I'm from Colorado. Like, you've lived in Ireland, in New York, in California, now in Korea.
Yeah.
Like, which was the biggest culture shock, I guess, coming from Colorado? Because Colorado's pretty quiet, depending on where you're from. If you're from, like, Denver, then maybe it's not. But if you're in the...
I mean... I don't really have culture shock, honestly. I kind of just get by. I don't really have a problem with that.
Okay.
Or homesickness or anything. I'm just cool wherever, man.
Just chill.
It's great.
Home is where
I get excited when I move to new places.
Okay, I gotcha. All right, well, looks like we got the whatever issues fixed up here. Now, Kibay got to take a bunch of damage up in this top side. Court JJ and Ruler are waiting. It's just Hachani and Arrow up here.
Yeah, and they can't actually deny this wave either, which is problematic.
Oh, here we go. Flash away immediately by Hachani. Still gets caught by the stun. Takes a little bit of damage from that Cosmic Finding. Will be able to get out. Summoner spell blown. So nice little gank there by Core JJ coming over the wall.
Not even worth walking up to that turret when your jungler isn't on that side of the map, honestly. You have to blow a Summoner spell for absolutely nothing right there. I think the results were going to be pretty clear, and as you can see, scores on the bottom side of the map just protecting Someday's farm right now. Fly going to be rolling over. Now, Ambition should not be contesting this blue buff at all.
Yeah, well, here comes Crown, going to try to speed him up. Maybe he has a tethered down on the score, will lock him up. He takes a bit of damage, but Crown and Ambition will be able to get out. They don't get the blue buff, though.
You don't make a cross-map play when you just showed 3 people on the bottom or on the top side of the map like that. There is not a chance that that is going to work. So we see both teams blowing their flash for basically no reason.
Oh, well, Crown going to take a bunch of damage. Here comes the curtain call. He's really on the edge of this one, though. One shot connects the bubble, comes down, Crown flashes out. The rest of those bullets will go wide, but another summoner spell answered there in the mid side. So getting one away from the jungler and the Karma.
Yeah, also Johnny tried to predict the flash there with the bubble, unfortunately. Crown saw it before he flashed, so just flashed a little bit diagonally instead. Nice try, but nothing going to come of that. And it's good for KT just to be harassing the members of Samsung right now and distracting them from actually pushing up, because this is a vulnerable position. Samsung has an opportunity to group mid right now or do really whatever they want on the map, whether it's the Rift Herald, because they just don't have any pressure in the side waves. And that could mean some early turrets if Samsung actually wants to play around them. Meanwhile, Someday used that freeze really well.
He's
and has
got a nice advantage.
2 levels now.
20 CS up over top of that Renekton. Here comes a TP play on the top side. Johnny's coming around the back, finds the bubble under Ruler, who can't get the spell shield off in time, gets rooted by the Jhin. Will take that magical journey, but he goes straight in the face of 3 people. Pops on the hunt, runs around the wall. Fly, the ultimate not going to connect, and it looks like Ruler will get out of this one. No, here comes Score on the backside. The Brazinger connects. All he needs to do is tunnel in, knock him up, and take him out, and he does so. First blood going over to the Rek'Sai core. JJ still on the run, but there's the bubble from Johnny. He finds the second kill, and KT making moves in the top side, pick up the first 2 of the game.
Yeah, that was a great play from KT right after they pushed out that bottom side. No wards, so Someday couldn't keep pushing, but instead they just devote themselves to this gank by having Fly roam into the top side too. Hard flash for Ruler though, does make it over the wall, and then you see Score flash over, doesn't have his tunnel available right now, and it manages to actually pick up the rest of this. Core misses his skill shot, unfortunately for him, and that's going to be the finisher right there. Arrow also missing a skill shot, couldn't actually land the Jhin root on the opposite side of the magical journey, but still 2 for KT, and that means another pause.
Yes, it does. Core JJ said,
it's a tactical timeout.
Hey,
We're Counter-Strike now.
There's a problem. I'm not level 6 yet, so I can't Bard Ultimate. I need a remake. So, looks like we're just going to have another little pause here.
Oh boy.
Get things figured out. So yeah, culture shock. I haven't really had that either.
No,
Going back to that.
It's great. It's great to live here.
I had a lot of people, especially when I first moved to California, because like the Philadelphia area of East Coast is very different than California, and everybody's like, "Oh, how is it living over there?" I was just like, "Well, you know, I just do my job and I make money."
Yep,
that's about it. It's warmer. That's all I really had going on. But Korea's nice.
It's great.
I don't. I miss like my dad and some of my friends, but outside of that, I don't have like much of a homesickness going on.
No, I don't. Yes. I don't even want to go back to America.
Well, now my dad's coming to visit. So that's gonna be
really?
fun. Yeah, he's gonna be out here in August.
Nice.
For the finals and whatnot.
Nice.
So planning that trip. So that was our Father's Day interaction. It's like, hey, happy Father's Day. Come to Korea already. And he's like, all right, fine. Tell me when to go.
That's nice. It took my parents over 2 years to come out here. So.
Well, I have to push him for it. My dad is he's not a lazy person, but when it comes to like traveling, he just doesn't do that a whole lot. So when it comes to that, he's like very laid back and doesn't do much for himself. So I have to be like, okay, here's your flight. Be at the airport at this time, board, and then fly to Korea.
Well, it's all set up now.
Yeah, he's gonna complain a lot about that flight though. It's like 18 hours from the East Coast.
That's why I always took the direct flights from New York City.
Yeah.
Here, even then it's 15 hours.
Yeah, it's still really up there. So
I don't think there are direct flights from Philadelphia.
Probably not. I don't think there is.
I don't think anybody would fly from Philadelphia to Korea.
Unfortunately, that's where the international airport is. So if I have to tack on 2 hours for him to go to New York and then fly from New York, he'll complain even more. So I have to just force him to go through PHL, which is one of the worst airports I've ever been in. It's not fun.
I can only imagine.
If you guys can avoid Philadelphia Airport. If you ever travel to the East Coast, don't go there.
I just avoid Philadelphia on the whole. Just like scratch
That's
that
a good
one right
point.
off.
That's a good point. There's some nice parts of Philadelphia.
There's
It's
some
got its
interesting
charm.
American history there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've walked on the first street in America. That was cool. But they still have the buildings there. They maintain those. You can go in and see them, how everybody lived. Everybody must have been like 2 feet shorter back then because they're really tiny. It's kind of like old Korean buildings, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, probably very similar.
But no, Philadelphia's good. Cheesesteaks are good.
That's not a reason to go there.
It's close. The cheesesteaks are pretty damn good. But there's not much else going on there. So cheesesteaks and American history. If that's your thing, go to Philadelphia. If not,
Bad sports teams
never
too.
go there.
You know?
Yeah. Oh God. Don't get me started. I hate. Well, no, the Flyers.
The Flyers have been good.
The Flyers are pretty good. Everybody else is. I don't follow basketball, so I don't think the 76ers do very good.
Well, they've been tanking for draft for like several years now. So maybe eventually with their tank for draft strategy, it will be good.
I bet Allen Iverson when I was like 6, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And this is like before I knew that the 76ers was just not a good basketball team. So now that I think back on that memory, I was just like, oh, I met Allen Iverson. I kind of wish that didn't happen.
My favorite thing about Philadelphia sports are the Eagles, though, because I love it when they trade or get free agents because it just always ends up a train wreck. It's wonderful.
See, I've never been an Eagles fan. My brother was an Eagles fan, my older brother, and we always had that older-younger brother rivalry. So when I was younger, I didn't want to like the Eagles because he did. So I picked like the Cowboys or something, which isn't really much better. But so I picked the Cowboys and he liked the Eagles. So I've never liked the Eagles my entire life. And all of my friends from that area are obviously like Eagles fanatics. So every time the season starts, I was like, well, the Eagles are just going to lose. I was like, a better team is going to win, whether it's the Patriots or the Broncos or, Seattle or something like that. Like, they're just the Eagles are not going to win. And they're always just like, shut up, man. It's a new season. They got this new guy on the team. And I'm just like, it doesn't matter, dude. Every other team has every other player. So they will do infinitely better than the Eagles. And lo and behold, I've been correct for many a year.
I love off season for the Eagles. It really is my favorite.
It's so stupid. Okay, here, I got you on this one. Best thing to come out of Philadelphia is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Okay, fine.
Right.
I've seen a little bit of that. I enjoyed it.
That show was actually pretty accurate. A lot of those crazy characters that come out of Philadelphia in that show, they exist. I went to Temple University. You see some crazy stuff on the street from time to time.
Like you said, I've never been. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's good. It's like a worse New York.
I believe you. Significantly worse.
Yeah, public transit sucks. The people are crappy. But the food's okay.
The food's okay.
So.
The greasy American food is okay.
If you just want to put on like 20 pounds in a single meal,
that's
great.
Pretty much anywhere in America, really.
That's true.
That's what I get so surprised at when I go back to America is I try and order dinner, and it's like enough for 3 meals for me. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with all of this food?
Yeah, like I can get full off kimchi and rice. And you gave me like 3 racks of ribs.
Also, it's just hilarious. Like you go eat fast food in America, and the
like
drinks,
super size.
The drinks are like the size of a small trash can. Like, damn it, America! No wonder you're so fat. Jeez.
Yeah.
You don't need 64 ounces of Coke. Nobody needs that.
But it's only $3.99. That was actually a thing that New York did really well. They banned the sale of large quantities of soda.
I don't. That happened after after I moved, and I'm not sure if that went through or whether they were just considering because Bloomberg did a lot of stuff like that, and that was honestly a very good idea.
Yeah, he did a lot of stuff.
Well, people hate him because they think that he was too aggressive about limiting like people's ability to do dumb things. But in my experience in the world, OG and Legion, people really do need to be prevented from doing dumb things that hurt themselves.
Yeah.
So I was fully in support of all of Bloomberg's ideas about how to get people to eat better or limiting these very, honestly, processed sugar is a dangerous substance if you consume too much of it. So just go ahead, limit the control that just a little bit. Not like you can't have it. You just can't have 64 ounces of it in one go.
Yeah. They also did the thing with the all the old payphones, where you would go to the payphone, you'd pick it up, and it would have like a voice telling you the historical significance of the location where that payphone is. So they just like took all because they had like
I didn't
thousands.
even know that.
They had thousands of they had thousands and thousands of payphones because like in America you could very rarely find an actual payphone these days. So they took all of these old ones and they converted them into like historical site like educational
That's awesome.
programs. It was actually really cool.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they did that in the last. They might still be working on it, but that started a couple years ago.
Interesting.
So they've been doing that. Korea, you can find payphones though. They're all over the place. I don't know why, but everybody has like cell phones and whatnot, and there's 4G service in the subway and on top of mountains here.
The LTE here is faster than most American internet connections.
Yes,
I'm not even joking.
It's pretty absurd. It's like eat your heart out. I mean, that was my favorite thing. That was what I really looked forward to. It was like, oh, get hired to talk about video games for a living. That's cool, but the internet in Korea. That's the big kicker.
$20 a month for 100 up, 100 down.
I pay $35 for that nice gigabit speed.
You don't even need that. What are you
doing? I don't. Watching
multi-twitching with like 6 streams
exactly.
in source.
I can watch.
Right.
It's for those fun moments where all of the League of Legends streams overlap because of the shoddy scheduling. So I can watch every single region at the same. I don't even do that. I watch like Korea and a little bit of NA. That's all I got.
I'm watching a little bit more EU these days, but yeah, generally just because of the time zone. EU is at the worst time zone for us. It's like starts at midnight or 1 a.m. So.
Yeah, well, NA now when they start at 9, it's actually pretty bearable because then you get the second matches at 12. So that's actually workable these days. Last split definitely wasn't. It's like, oh, I'll wake up at 5 and watch that. But I don't know. I don't really care about the EU teams that much. I don't know them. I don't know anybody on them, so I just don't really watch it.
I like watching some of them. It's been interesting. I was curious about G2's changes, and obviously I care a lot about Freeze on H2K. So
yeah.
It's been fun. It's been fun to see how that's been going over there.
I'll watch if it's like H2K and G2 if they play, and sometimes Fnatic because I like to keep tabs on them, see how they're doing. Origin though, they fell out of my favor.
Well,
but
they've actually been doing better than I thought. So
they're in 9th place, aren't they?
Well. Considering they lost Forgiven and Spec's an AD carry.
Never mind.
Come on,
better than you thought. I see where you were going with that one. But, yeah, no, if Sifa's casting, that's when I really watch EU. My boy
yes. Yeah, your old buddy Sifa.
My LMS friend.
Well, guys, we don't know what's happening right now.
We're like 12 minutes into this one.
16 minutes in.
Well, because the first pause. I'm saying 12 minutes for this one, and then the rest for the other. So
yeah. Again, guys, it's just a piggyback broadcast here. We don't know when exactly this is going to end, if it is going to end.
We don't know what the problem is.
No.
We could have another remake on our hands.
I don't think so. Well, we haven't seen any issues, it looks like, with any kind of abilities or anything like it. It was much more obvious when the Fizz couldn't actually use the Playful Trickster.
Yeah. Oh, well. I mean, if we do have to have a remake for some reason, at least we're only 11 minutes into this one.
That's it, not 35 minutes?
35, because that one was a little bit rough, but a necessary remake.
Yeah, well, things are very even, so remake wouldn't be the end of the world. KT did bounce back and tie up the gold with those couple of kills.
Yeah, it's a good spot to be in considering they're still down that tower. So if they equalize the objective, they'll have themselves a nice little lead.
Yeah, for KT2, it is just about dragging this out into the late game, I feel. Samsung just doesn't have enough tools, really, to actually engage on KT, I feel, really at any point. So if it comes down to that, I think this Renekton is going to be a lot less useful. It's why when we see a lot of Sivir Karma compositions, you want to see something that really has a guaranteed ticket into the back line, like a Maokai, so you actually have some engaged that then the rest of your sped-up composition can actually follow up on, as opposed to just getting stuffed by one tidal wave. But again, Tempered Fate, that's the real X factor here, because if there's a good Tempered Fate, then you can just run your team up next to the people who are in stasis, and that's going to be enough. Also, likewise, if Achani does miss the tidal wave or it doesn't go off very well, or if it's used and then they use a different form of speed, whether it's Karma or Sivir to re-engage, that's where we could see some interesting stuff from Samsung too. So it's not, all is not lost, but again, with Arrow on this gen, he just doesn't have a lot of threat on the back line. And someday also, building up a nice little advantage is worrisome considering how powerful Aurelia is if she can get on top of the AD carry.
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't bought in a while either, so should have enough for at least a sheen if he doesn't want to go for the stinger and just try to apply as many of those true damage hits as possible. But I don't know. We'll find out. Or maybe not.
Or maybe we won't.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll never find out.
Yeah, you said KT wants to drag out the game. They're really dragging out this pause.
Yeah, well, we have 11 minutes left on the clock. That is the amount of time that's all the amount of time you get for a pause is 30 minutes in a game. If that timer hits 0, the game is destroyed. It goes into the black hole of games. That's going to be it. And we're going to have to remake.
Huzzah for that.
Yeah.
I hope they can conclude that there needs to be a remake before the 11 minutes ticks down, but you never know. We could just be stuck here for eternity.
We could just be stuck here in piggyback broadcast pause hell.
Yep. Well, at least the Korean casters sound like they're having fun. I can hear.
What else are you supposed to do?
Good of them, like,
what else are you supposed to do during this time, really?
I don't know. Play Pokemon.
That's true. That's what you were doing earlier. I would talk about the latest episode of Game of Thrones with you, but you don't watch it, and also I wouldn't want to spoil.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that one. And I do need to watch it. I've been meaning to get around to that one. I have a couple days off this week, so maybe I'll have a long weekend. So maybe I'll sit down and I'll just binge through the first couple seasons of Game of Thrones. It's so weird. I own the first 2 seasons on Blu-ray, and yet I've only seen the first episode of season 1.
Damn.
Yeah. I got them for $1.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah. Sometimes really crappy DVD stores like FYE do have some good deals. So you always have to just keep your eye out for that.
I'm just glad that HBO now finally decided. HBO for the longest time just decided that they didn't want my money. I was like, HBO, can I please pay you for your content? Like, nah. It's like, well.
Was it region locked or?
No, it was just they didn't have an online subscription service at all. You had to go through a cable provider, which I haven't owned a TV or had cable in 12 years since I moved out of my parents' house when I went to college. I've never in my adult life had any form of cable or satellite or anything because it hasn't been necessary. Netflix was there. Certain downloading services were there. So I just wanted to pay HBO because I want them to receive money for the shows that I like so they will continue making more of them. And due to their deals with like cable and satellite providers, it's like, no, you can't have this. I was like, no, seriously, I'm actually in another country and I can't get it. So could you please just allow me, since I'm in Korea, to watch it? Because that's what's great about the NFL is the NFL, you pay like $200 a season if you're outside of the U.S., and I can watch all the games in HD. It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
Now, I wonder why like UFC doesn't do that. Just have like a season and you get all of the fights instead of charging like per fight. Because then everybody gets really pissed off when the fight ends in like 10 seconds. Like the Ronda Rousey fight and all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, it's the fight of the century. And then it ends like this. And you're just like, well, I spent $70.
There's something exciting about that, too. It's like watching Korea play NA teams, you know?
That's true.
It's short.
Well, I'm just saying, have a season so that you don't have to do it a la carte
That's true.
for those fights, because then you can get upset because it's like, man, I spent all this money. Because if you spend money on something, like I don't watch wrestling, I know that Papa Smithy does, but like if you spend money on WrestleMania, it's scripted. You know it's gonna last for like the 3 hours, so you know that you're gonna get your value. You know exactly what you're going to receive. With those fights, it's like, spend $70 and maybe have a good one. Or maybe that person will just get knocked out in the first round. So, it's very up in the air.
Very true.
But
I'm just glad HBO wants to take my money.
There you go.
And I can watch all the old shows, too, so it's even better. Yeah. That's my advertisement for HBO now. HBO, if you want to sponsor, this stream, awesome.
It'd be like the streamers that are sponsored by Crunchyroll. Just have like HBO at the bottom. HBO to go / Monte Cristo for a 10% discount.
That's right. Give me that affiliate.
Well, I'll definitely have to invest once I get past those first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones.
There you go.
When it happens, I do not know, but I will have you, HBO Go.
It's great. Not unlike this pause, you know. It's this pause is not great. We're now down to 7 minutes of time remaining before the League of Legends apocalypse happens.
Did somebody die? Like, did somebody just pass out in the booth? They had like a headache like Meatloaf did on stage the other day and just just passed out.
Oh, poor Meatloaf.
Yeah, well, he's done that for years. I know that's not a very like positive thing to say, but
Doesn't sound good.
he has been passing out on stage for years. Apparently, it was just like a mild headache or something, and then he collapsed.
Well, that sounds like something you want to get checked
Yeah.
out.
I don't know. I hope to God he's okay. I love Meatloaf.
I know. My fondest memories of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Love him in that. Love the Rocky Horror Picture. Why are they remaking that movie? Actually,
I don't even know.
I have mixed feelings about the remake of that movie.
I think it shouldn't happen.
I feel like there's a way that it could be done really well, but also Tim Curry is awesome.
You can't replace Tim Curry in anything. It's impossible. Like remake it? Nope, it's not gonna work. Can't remake Clue.
No.
Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like it just wouldn't work. I just don't think it's gonna be. I mean, just don't remake movies.
I agree.
Unless it's been like 50 years, and even then, some of them should never be touched. Like Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, Citizen Kane. My God, if there's ever a Citizen Kane remake, I might just end it all if they remake Citizen Kane. I love that movie. I love Orson Welles, and that needs to be never touched by anybody else's hands for the rest of eternity.
I love how crazy Orson Welles got.
He was nuts, but in the best way possible. Like, so Orson Welles would run his radio show out of RKO, and then go to the theater because he was always doing these Shakespearean remakes that downtown in New York. So he'd have to go from the radio station all the way to the theater and be in like rush hour traffic. So what he would do is he would hire ambulances to drive him with the sirens on, so he could go from the station to the movie to the theater for the play, and they would just cut through all of the traffic because they would be like, oh, shoot, oh my God, there's an emergency, we got to get out of the way, and then that's how he would just arrive at the theater and be like, all right, let's go.
I like how fat he got.
He ate himself to death.
Yeah,
he really
it's
did.
amazing.
He
was incredibly talented as an actor and a writer and a director. But, I hope I can be that crazy someday. 'Cause this is actually my secret dream, is that someday I will be that insane. Hey, that's like the
You're on a good path so far.
That's the level of insanity that I aspire to.
Yeah. He was just bold. No one else did the things that he did. I mean, even just the War of the Worlds broadcast.
Yeah.
People were telling him, like, you're causing panic across the nation. You need to stop the broadcast. And he was like, no. We keep going, and we do not tell them that this is a book. And people like in the Midwest who didn't have any contact, like,
great.
You had to send a letter back then. You can just like pick up the phone and like call your relatives. Like they're freaking out because they're just listening to this broadcast. They're like, oh my God, the East Coast is being destroyed.
I need to find more ways to incite mass panic. Without hurting people.
Okay. All right.
I will add the asterisk to that one.
All right. We're coming back to Meatloaf now with Project Mayhem and Fight Club.
That's true.
So you're just gonna have to find your Robert
No,
Paulson.
they hurt people.
Sometimes they hurt each other a lot.
I suppose if you sign up to get hurt, it's not really that bad.
Well, actually, no, they didn't really hurt anybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the buildings, when they blow them up at the end, the credit card companies, they evacuate the buildings, so they know that no one's in there. No one's in the cafe that they destroy with the giant globe. The computer store. Yeah, they don't really hurt anybody.
I like it.
Yeah, because even when they started fights with random people, they had to lose the fight. So
that's true.
It was a very
interesting.
It was a very nice chaos corporation that they had going on.
Yeah, they only hurt each other. You enlisted to get hurt, so you knew what you were signing up for.
What a perfect organization!
It's like signing up for the military.
Well, that's not necessarily depending, but we're down to the last 3 minutes now.
That's right. We've made it. Half an hour of pause time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we get excited about the lack of replay feature or lack of resume from replay, where the game just dies, goes into a pit.
I love it.
A fiery pit.
I love it. Ah.
So yeah, that's our life now.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember the last time I saw a pause go for the full 30 minutes. It's never happened in Korea.
I mean, the closest I could think would have been the 40-minute pause that was at Worlds with Fnatic and EDG.
All right, they're changing Sunday's PC.
Well, they have 2 minutes to do it.
Maybe they fix that. You know what? I don't actually know if the game still explodes and the clock ticks 0. I don't know what happens.
I tell you what, it probably
0.
happens. It probably restarts at 30. We just sit here for another half hour.
I do know that it used to do that, but I honestly have not been in this situation in such a long time that that may well have been changed by Riot.
Yep. Oh, wait. Maybe. My God.
My God, Is
it possible?
Oh.
What?
Oh.
Maybe.
It's moving.
Hey!
Okay, well, we really hope there isn't another issue because if there is, there is now no time to resolve it.
There's 2 minutes to take care of everything. All right. Well, we've already covered everything that's going to happen so far, so we just have to wait for more action to evolve. Fly rotating down to that bottom side, making use of that mobility. Going to try to put some pressure down onto this tier 2, but no one's really backing him up.
Yeah, hard for him to make a play, too. Cuvée has that TP and Fly with the heal in this game. They've now decided to send Arrow into the mid lane, which is perfectly fine. You don't want him overextending in a side lane on the Jhin, so having him and Hachani here and clearing is A-OK. The problem is that Samsung is able to make plays like this one.
Well, somebody goes straight back in on the Ruler, gets a ton of damage through. He has to flash away in the end after getting Cosmic Bound.
I think he was really afraid that there might be a TP coming through from Cuvée.
Yeah, but look at this. We have On the Hunt being popped by Ruler as they're trying to hightail it out. Fly roaming up to the top. Score is going to get there first with Hachani. Takes a good bit of damage. The TP now coming through. That bullet not really going anywhere. The curtain call has 2 more shots from Arrow. Might just want to close this one out and get closer. You can see the Ambition will go down. The Score picks up the kill. Ruler with a very nice spell shield there to deny the CC. They're still trying to get this chase on the Cuvée. The Star is doing a ton of damage to this Renekton. He's going to get knocked up, and Score finds a double kill. Bubble not going to kick the poor JJ, but poor JJ has nowhere to run. He goes down. 3 kills picked up by KT. Hachani getting the last one, and now the ping's coming out onto the Rift Herald.
Yeah, going to move back, and interestingly enough, we saw, of course, the Aurelion Soul in the bottom side able to push up onto that turret, and that just opened up so much of the map, made Cuvée a little bit slow to actually TP, but honestly, Score's presence has been amazing in this game. He has been in all the right places at the right time, making sure to get his teammates there. Someday chunking out the Sivir early, which prevented any kind of TP dive attempt.
Yep.
And then as they retreat, overextended, and Score just able to get there so very quickly with the help of his ultimate. And Curtain Call able to put down some damage from very far away, or at least make them afraid. We'll put it that way. There, finally got some damage.
There's also just a really good route from Arrow, really far away with the W onto Ambition to really help solidify that kill.
Another one onto Core later on, too.
Yeah.
And that helps set up this play. So Arrow actually doing very well with some of these long-range skill shots on the Jhin and just cutting off escape routes for Samsung. And successful early game so far. Lost that turret, but have managed to acquire a narrow gold lead just on some of these nice kills. But most importantly, they have been punishing Samsung and not allowing them to actually make plays around the points on the map at which they are putting pressure.
Really good bounce back after losing that tier 2. Now they find themselves with an advantage of about 1,000 gold, so still not a whole lot, but if they pick up that next turret, that will set them considerably further ahead. Dragon still going to be ignored.
As is appropriate, right?
Yep.
Don't go for that dragon. Oh, someday just barely off that Trinity Force. All the components. But he is actually going to swap into the bottom side right now. They really want him to hit that power spike.
Oh, well, Score's going to go in deep here. Curtain Call comes out. First shot goes onto Ambition. The second one as well. Shield coming out from the Karma. Going to keep him alive. And they'll just back off that one. Unable to find any more damage in ground. Gets the tether on the Fly. He's firing back with those stars and arrows here as well. Gets a root in onto Ambition, who gets stunned up by the Q from Fly. Good chip damage coming out from KT. Just poking in where they can, not looking to really overcommit.
No, they just want to keep on harassing them. The more KT can skirmish, the more they can distract Samsung from actually trying to push up these waves are making a play with their better wave clear. Someday also just freezing, so they're being pretty greedy, but they're still able to get these kills based on how much faster they are as a team to come across the map. And that, especially with the teleport advantage right now, is going to be really hard to punish.
5,000 once, this is another Cloud Drake.
Oh,
dang
Mountain.
it! All right, well.
I didn't take your bet, so unfortunately I don't get it.
Fair enough.
Sad times. I had 2/3 of a chance. Ah, well. So.
Well, I'm glad that I was wrong. I just thought that it would be the icing on the cake. The long pause into a second Cloud Drake.
See, that's one of those bets where you're happy either way because you either make 5,001, which is about $5, or you don't get a Cloud Drake. So it's win-win for you, really.
I'd happily pay $5 to not have Cloud Drake.
I would probably pay $5 not to have Cloud Drake for every Cloud Drake that would appear in this league. I'd probably do that.
Oh, Ambition trying to clear the tunnel, but Score says, nope, that's mine. Bubble's not going to connect, though. Root lands on the Fly. Stun will come in from Cuvée. Fly taking a ton of damage. Can they finalize this one? Doesn't look like they want to dive in deep, so he does get to back away safely. Still had heal in his pocket, so. But wasn't necessarily in mortal danger.
They're going to cancel his recall. So sticking around just a little bit longer, as we did see Cuvée coming around the side. Cuvée is going to be building into the Black Cleaver. And that makes sense, considering what we talked about and how this supposedly was some sort of counterpick to Aurelia. So it has to be designed in order to win the 1v1 in the split push, because that's how Samsung has the best chance of winning this game, is in a 4-1 split. We haven't really been able to see that 1v1 matchup yet because it's mostly been Someday and Cuvée farming in deep freezes on opposite sides of the map so far.
You know, the thing that this makes me excited for potentially is if Cuvée gets his hands on Aurelia and then Someday picks Renekton.
That's right, counter matchups, love it.
Oh, Ambition though. Root's not going to connect. Nicely timed bubble by Hachani into that tidal wave, and they take down the Elise. Very nicely played by KT. Crown's going to get the Root in on the Fly. Curtain Call comes out, just zoning Crown off of him, dissuading him from pushing any more damage in onto that Aurelian Soul.
Yeah, that was great chain CC there, even though, as you said, the Jhin Root missed. Hachani there to follow up with some more crowd control to take out that kill onto Ambition.
I don't think he ever hit the ground. He came down from the rappel and immediately floated back up. So, very good CC. That's going to be the Bard ultimate coming out, though. Finds Fly and Score. Cuvée up in the front line, locks up the Aurelian Soul, but he's getting healed up by that ebb and flow, and he's just going to have to back off. So that's going to be the dominance used for no gain.
Yeah, CoreJJ, though, did actually have a nice Bard ultimate there, at least to save the likes of his teammates, and that is worthwhile, and also keeping the turret up, a big bonus there. So we are going to see the Rod of Ages into Rylai's build coming in here from Fly, and as suspected, just trying to get some tankiness here. It's a pretty standard build, of course, on Aurelian Soul, but the reason why you pick it with this Jhin is to get more frontline beefiness alongside the Rek'Sai, and really make sure you can peel very well for your low mobility AD carry.
Just going to slow things down for now. Still only 1,000 gold separating these guys. They weren't able to finish off that mid-tier 1, but it's insanely low at the moment. You can see Someday, Arrow, and Hachani all grouped up in this mid-side, looking for an opening to potentially get in there. Not going to happen quite yet, so just going to back off them to defend their own. Vision control coming out now from Samsung, still a ways out from that Mountain Drake. So it should just be a farm fest for the next couple minutes.
Indeed, Samsung really sticking around that mid lane, but considering they have the Sivir, the wave clear that she provides, it should be okay, at least for the moment, too. Looks like unless Ruler's going to miss quite a few of his spell shields.
Spell shield comes through, eats that first bullet. Just using him to zone it off. Nicely played by Arrow, so they can push in and finish out that turret. And with that, we'll give them almost a 2,000 gold lead, and they'll equalize the turret count.
Yeah, I like what we saw there. KT just making use of the curtain call to ensure that they get this turret down. And that's an important timing, too. It gives them room to recall with the gold from the turret and push up the mid lane before the Mountain Drake shows up, which they are going to really want to take. Not so much for themselves, honestly, but to keep it away from Samsung. They don't.
Boy.
I mean, neither team really has a great siege composition.
Well, this is pretty aggressive here. Ambition going to get jumped on. Someday goes through, tries to find Core JJ, but Fly is there to finish him out with the ultimate. Nicely played. They'll be able to take away that blue buff.
He is just so active in this game.
Yeah.
Really making the most out of the range of their abilities. See the voice of light from Fly finishing off that kill from very far away. And now this Bard is pretty squishy, went for the boots of mobility. The Sightstone early on.
Yeah. Or JJ just gets popped. Now KT just building up that wave in the top. Don't want to push in for the turret. They will back off. They're just trying to keep everybody from Samsung contained as close to their base as they possibly can. And they're doing a good job of it.
Okay. Well, Someday is actually building the Wits End this game. Now, I really liked the build path that we saw from Cube when he was working on that Wits End earlier on last week, but it made a lot more sense then when he wasn't going to actually be split pushing into a Renekton, because I think that's going to be a little bit of a concern here for Someday. If he has to 1v1 that Renekton, certainly the magic damage will be nice, but not a lot to follow up on with the magic shred or picking up the magic resist stacks from the Renekton.
Yeah.
Might make it a little bit more problematic and may indicate that Someday and the rest of the KT are just looking to fight 5v5 and totally ignore the Renekton split push.
I mean, so far they've been doing an excellent job of that.
Yep.
And now we can see with that objective control comes a Mountain Drake. So that will be the second of the game here for KT Rolster. We'll get a little sneak peek as to what the next one is, and it's going to be another Mountain Drake.
Yeah, I guess I don't really see Wits End as the most valuable option here, considering also that you have two physical damage dealers who are going to be in the late game at least, outputting most of the damage when it comes to Renekton and Sivir, as Karma will slowly fall off over time. And you're not really shredding for anyone else either, considering that your team has a Jhin and a Rek'Sai on it, so it's really only for Fly, who's not building the heaviest AP build. And mostly the Aurelion Soul is going to be about CC and protecting the Jhin, so I don't know. I think maybe this is one of those times where you think about going for a different build, especially if you're going to be split pushing against the Renekton, perhaps picking up some more tankiness, honestly, or at least some lifesteal, and CC in the form of the Blade of the Ruined King.
Well, he does have a cloth armor in the inventory. Whether, where that's going to go towards, we're not sure yet. Obviously, could be a Randuin's Omen, could be a Frozen Heart, which would do really well into this Renekton because of the Fervor of Battle, plus the Sivir innately, who has a large amount of attack speed. So, starting to optimize there, but I guess was more afraid of the immediate threat of Crown and Ambition. Even the Bard, he does a little bit of damage, but speaking of damage, Ruler taking a ton of it, has to flash out. These shots from the curtain call going to go wide as they do escape that cone of damage. But still, good catch there by Samsung, getting that flash down away from the AD carry and on the hunt popped.
Yeah, just more aggression from KT, and every time they're using their range advantage to punish Samsung, as Score will just pop up. And as soon as he starts to get damage down, that does allow Jhin to instantaneously try and root them from such a long way away. So the chain CC then makes it so Nami can catch up and they can finalize some of these kills. It's really being very well played by KT.
Yeah, just maintaining this advantage and keeping the waves exactly where they want them. You see Someday hasn't even really had to go back up to that top side to regulate. The waves just been pushing pretty perfectly for him so far, but every now and then pops back up there, keeps it moving towards the tier 2, then goes right back to playing with the team.
All right, Duskblade.
Hell yeah.
On top of the Yomu, so
I love it. Disappear.
I love it. With the way he's been playing the Jhin, because he's engaging at such a long range, those first shots are going to be extraordinarily painful with this build, and That's what it's intended to do. This is a little bit of a sniping Jhin build that we have already on Arrow's Jhin. I'm liking it, and it certainly suits the way that he's been playing this game.
See where he wants to go for the next item. Still has a biscuit in the inventory. He hasn't had to use because he's been so safe in the back line.
Well, it's just been lane swaps, right?
Yeah.
So it's been mostly just very safe farming from both teams in the side lane, and Samsung punished for a bit of overextension, to the tune of 7 kills, but again, not that big of a gold differential. They have actually been doing relatively well when it comes to farm.
Yeah, they have leads. The mid lane really going to be the big one, but that's basically being traded out for some days. Significant lead. 40 CS up in the top lane right now.
They're going to pop through and take that blue buff alongside his cooldown boots. He'll be very happy with maxing out a CDR.
Well, they're just going to try to shove him off the turret, get some damage in here with the curtain call. Nice juke back by Arrow. He does cancel and gets away from that Bard ultimate. But with the curtain call not up, that will dissuade KT from pushing forward onto that tier 2.
That's another good Bard ultimate from Core JJ there, because he realized that was an adaptation to the way that KT has been playing this game, which is just forcing people off of turrets with the help of the curtain call, because otherwise their siege is very weak. We're looking at low-range champions like Aurelia who need to get in onto the turret if they want to actually take it down. So as long as you cancel the curtain call, then you're going to be able to defend these turrets with your Sivir and with your Karma. So it's a good use of the Bard ult. Why not?
See them walking over those traps. Trying to get them spotted out. So Samsung roaming up towards that river. All of them going to be seen. Juve the only one split off the top side. But not a whole lot of advantages that they can really try to push at this moment. The tier 1 mid is the most obvious, but they just don't have much of a way to get on there.
No, and for now, for KT, it's mostly going to be about stacking up these Drakes and trying to play around the Baron, because these teams will struggle with actually sieging either one, just due to the basically low range in both of these compositions. Not too much of an option.
Dude down here on the score. Just getting some trade damage onto Ambition, trying to keep him out of his own jungle. Meanwhile, Wave's been shoved up by Fly. They do have several members hovering around this bottom side, but there's still just no real way for KT to get in either onto these turrets. Mountain Drake is spawning now in about 17 seconds, so it looks like everybody's just going to back off, go spend some gold, and get set to take that second one.
Yeah, Jhin now starting to build a BF sword item. We'll see what he actually decides on. In the end, obviously, Jhin with those crits can be a huge handful.
Yeah.
But if he wants to play it super safe, of course, you could instead take a look at the Bloodthirster, just to make sure that there isn't a chance, really, that QV can kill him.
Well, looks like this one's going to go unanswered, so third dragon picked up for KT. A cloud and a mountain. It's going to be another mountain drake to follow. Oh, boy. Turret damage galore coming in potentially for KT Rolster, picking up that.
Yeah, most importantly is the Baron damage, though.
Yes.
They really want to be able to fight around that objective and burn it down quickly so they can close this game, because yes, they're going to be having a lot of turret damage, but it doesn't mean much if you can never actually walk up and take some of these turrets out, because you don't have the range to do so.
Aurelia with triple Mount Drake, the true damage off of the hidden style seems
Pretty good.
pretty disgusting when you think about it. Might have a fight breaking out here. Scores taking away the red buff. No one's really spotted him yet. Do throw down that scrying orb. It looks like it will go over to Someday, so he can better stick to those squishy members on the side of Samsung in the back lines. Cube roaming up the top has that TP available, so should we see a fight break out in this mid, he can respond. Score's going to take a punch. Tidal Wave does get thrown out. Bard Ultimate finds Score, and Hajani. Call gets opened up. They answer with On the Hunt, and Samsung's just going to back off.
That was a really poor use of the Bard ultimate. Again, Samsung is reliant on that ability if they ever want to get it engaged. And as we saw, Cube was actually in the top side of the map, just not even responding to what was happening in the mid lane. And he has to be matching right now against Someday. Otherwise, Someday is just going to have the edge when it comes to chipping away these turrets. And Samsung, you know, they've had the TP advantage all game. We really haven't seen them react properly to the aggression of KT using their 2 teleports. You'd think they'd be having the better global or ganking presence, but it just hasn't been the case. KT has been faster on the rotation, faster on the collapses in spite of being 1 TP down. Now, of course, they do have the Rek'Sai ultimate. Brilliant Soul can get around the map very quickly, and we do have Arrow's range, so it's not like they are completely without tools to respond to a double TP, but the instantaneousness of that teleport should pretty much always give you an advantage.
Yep, so far this Renekton's just a bit of a head scratcher, not really doing much. Granted, we haven't seen the 1v1 too much, and since now that they're finally 1v1ing, Someday has a significant lead. See Kube just gonna dash out. Someday goes in straight underneath the tower, takes a bunch of shots, so really risky play. Meanwhile, up here in the jungle, Ambition gonna get sniped out by those shots from Arrow. Nicely picked up there. It's gonna be a triple kill over to the side of KT. 1 for Arrow, 1 for Fly, and 1 for Score. Now Someday roaming up. That's just going to open them to take that Baron.
Yeah, when Someday went under the turret, he actually thought he was going to get the stun from the Equilibrium strike. It's the only reason he would have gone under.
Yeah.
He did miscalculate that, so not going to find it. But let's take a look at this fight instead.
It's over a blue buff.
Yep, fight over the blue buff. Was taken away there by Ambition, but the tidal wave, beautiful. And that combo is just incredibly deadly from long range. The knockup buys so much time for Arrow to land those shots, and you really see the effectiveness of this Jhin build right now and how much that curtain call can do when you have this much armor penetration. Just the burst is enormous.
Yeah. Well, now it's Baron over to KT, who have all of the tools necessary to whittle down these turrets. That double Mountain Drake plus the Baron-empowered minions. See how much work they can get done while the buff is on them. There's a Guardian Angel for Someday. So now he can dive under turrets like that.
I thought he, of course, with the Giant spell would be moving toward a Randuin's, but GA is going to be the pickup here. One thing about Samsung is that in this game, they took an advantage with the turret pushing, and they realized they had a tempo edge against KT, who was slower with that Jhin, but ever since then, it's just been Score completely out jungling Ambition.
Yeah.
Ambition just not there at the right times compared to Score to actually have an effect really on this game. Arrow very patient.
Yep, just trying to find those snipes. He does land it on the ruler, but the shield is there from Crown to keep him healthy. Thought maybe he might use those bullets to clear the wave, but they do have plenty of damage. Meanwhile, Fly, all on his lonesome in the bottom. No one there to respond. He will be able to pick up this tier 2 tower.
Samsung just looks a bit lost. They could have pressed their wave clear advantage more in the early game, and they just sort of let it go and didn't respond with their multiple TPs.
Wow, look at that damage on a core. JJ finished off by the grenade. Score does get caught by the Bard ultimate, but he has a GA of his own, so he's perfectly fine. Ambition gonna repel up away from the bubble. Looks like he will be able to get out of there. Hajani with a nice flash over the thick part of the wall will get out. But Someday is just splitting in the top lane. Kube can't do a damn thing, and that's going to be almost all of the tier 2s following. Third one will go down right here as Arrow finishes it off. And now Samsung are completely stuck inside their base.
It's been a great game from KT.
Yeah.
It's just very calculated aggression.
The only objective that Samsung's really picked up was the tier 2 because they did a double turret swap.
Yep.
So outside of that, they're basically getting shut out here.
Yeah, it's been very smooth, but also again, Samsung just looking slow to respond to KT's aggression. And KT being aggressive, honestly, at surprising times, especially when Samsung tried to use that tempo advantage to get the top lane tier 2 down. Someday went all in all of a sudden onto Ruler and stopped any possible teleport dive that could have been set up there. So it's just smart play.
Yeah. From
Someday, and then they called in the cavalry after to cut off the members of Samsung as they were leaving lane just because Ruler was so low.
Yep, and just look how defensive they're being with these builds. Fly with the Banshee's Veil, Guardian Angel for both Score and Someday, who now does have that Randuin's Omen to boot.
Well, there's your Proto Belt Elise again.
Yes!
I know you like that one.
Too bad you're losing, Ambition. I don't think it's going to make many plays.
Well, you got to try something, right?
Yeah.
And again, Samsung does have limited forms of engage when it comes to crowd control. So being able to land that cocoon could be quite clutch.
Yeah. IE's there for Arrow as well with the Last Whisper. Yeah. So if you liked his damage before,
I did.
You're going to love it even more.
I bet you I will. I bet you I will.
Just ready for him to 100-0 somebody. Looks like we might have our opportunity. Ambition can take a bunch of damage, using the Proto Belt defensively to try to get out of there. Core JJ gonna get jumped on by Someday, who comes up with 2 kills. Fly taking away one of them. Wow, a 1300 shot onto Ambition. He got popped. Then he got popped. He goes down. Crown, nowhere to go. I think you just slash FF at this point. KT finding 4 kills, just Cuvée, all on his lonesome in the mid lane. That's going to be the inhibitors, maybe even the game ending right now.
Wow. Well, he only had a cloth armor. He did upgrade it to a chain vest, but the 1300 crit. And look at the damage they were able to put down. Arrow softening up those targets, and then Someday just blitzing in with the Trinity Force to finish off the kills. This has been wonderful team fighting from KT.
That was an awesome little finish to this game. Big hits coming in from Arrow as the build fully comes online at the end there. And in 36.5 minutes, KT Rolster with a damn near shutout over Samsung take game 1.
This is one of those weird things about watching KT, is that when they have these unique KT compositions with the Zillion or with the Aurelion Soul and the Jhin, they look so good. When they know how to play a comp, it is impressive to watch them team fight. And look at this, Fly topping out the damage charts in this game with the Aurelion Soul, just providing a lot of upfront AoE damage with the Voice of Light and able to be that meaty sort of DPS caster that his team needed. And then Someday and Jhin just swooping in to finish some of those kills. I love the way they played the Jhin. It was pretty much entirely for the curtain call in this game. That's all they did. They just used it as a zoning tool and to soften up targets. But when you have this Aurelia, especially when she starts to get resets on champions with the Blade Surge, that is huge and really fun to watch. But Samsung, they need to actually try and get some objectives here. They played very poorly around their wave control in that game, and they weren't, I feel, active enough. As soon as it started to go badly for them in that top side, when they continued to try and snowball off of turrets, they just stopped putting all pressure down, and it was a problem. But Score, honestly, had an awesome game, too. Yeah,
I mean, really everybody on the side of KT did. Hachani landing those bubbles, perfectly chained CC coming in from those guys. Arrow, beautiful zoning. And the Aurelion Soul doing more damage than it seemed like he really was, like coming out on top. I mean, we could see him in the fights chunking people out, but didn't really seem like he was doing as much as he actually did. So really impressive by KT. We'll see if Samsung can bounce back and what they're going to do in the draft for Game 2 when we come back from a very quick break.